Hi there guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing round 1 of the Rennsport R1 Championship, which kicked off last Friday. It was a new season for us all, obviously my first race in a new team, surrounded by new teammates, so that was a bit of an adjustment period, and overall I think the event was quite shaky for myself. As a team we had an okay day. Dara done really well, managed to bag us a bunch of points. I had a pretty up and down day, as you guys will see in this video, so yeah. With that, let's get into it. So then, here we are into qualifying for the quarterfinals, the first race of the evening. This was quarterfinal number 4, so it was the last one. I've had a chance to sort of watch the first 3 and gauge what kind of pace is expected, but of course every single quarterfinal is completely different. So anyway, into the lap, onto the brakes and towards turn number 1. I was starting to really feel the nerves at this point. I kind of snatched at the T1 turn in, so yeah, didn't get any wheel spin on the exit, but just a little bit below the limit. The ideal sectors that we were kind of looking for in qualifying was a mid to low 0.4 in sector 1, a high 0.9 or a low 0.0 in sector 2, and anything in the 0.9s in the last sector would sort of line up for around a 14.4, which would be good enough for somewhere in the top 3, top 4. So it kind of guarantees you an easy race. But as you brake fully calm, I turned in, just overslowed the car a little bit into the gravel through the left. I was then just a little bit compromised, and then for the last right, too late back to throttle, just underdriven, and yeah, at least a 10th gone there. Down in towards Ravage. At this point I already know the lap's not great. It's a 4.7 sector 1, it's not been ideal. I just wasn't able to push the car hard enough. I think the event just kind of got to me a little bit, got my own head, doubted myself, which is the number 1 rule is to, never doubt yourself. You've always got to back yourself. But for whatever reason, my brain just decided that today wasn't going to be that day. Although the middle sector may look okay, it looks tidy enough besides the calm, it's just below the limit. It's just not pushing hard enough, really. A little bit wide on entry at pit path, which meant that through the left I couldn't quite carry it as much speed as I would want. And then into Stavolo 1 onto the brakes, turning in, just a little bit wide again of where I wanted to be and not aggressive enough on the exit. So it's a 2.4 middle at this point. I'm looking down, I know roughly what I'm tracking. It's somewhere in the 7s, which is way off my PB, like close to 4/10ths, and I know just from looking at the times at the top left, Dom's gone 4.4, Joshua's done a 14.55. I'm not going to be anywhere near them. At this point I'm battling with Kazabon, Nikodem, guys like that, so I know I've got to just not give up, push as hard as I can in the last chicane. Okay through the right, opening up for the left as much as we can, taking a little short shift a second just to try and maximise the exit, use the torque, and across the line it's an 0.2 last, which isn't terrible, and it bails us out. That very easily could have been a sort of P7, P8 lap if I had continued to sort of let my head drop in the final sector, but we just had to, no matter what you've done previous in the lap, you've got to just pick yourself up and give it absolutely everything for what's remaining, because you never know what difference that could make. And for me that made a huge difference. We're 1,000th ahead of Thibaut, we're only 400s ahead of Nikodem, only a 10th ahead of Jimmy, and pretty shortly Rival was going to come in with a 0.7 as well, which would have been another position lost for us. I think we could have been like P8 if we'd had a shaky last sector. So yeah, P5 for qualifying, and not ideal, but let's move on to the race. So then here we are on the formation lap. We spawn in just after Blanchimont, so at this point here everyone's just trying to get a little bit of temperature in the brakes, because you don't want to be sort of coasting around and hitting the brakes for T1 with 20 degrees brakes. It's not a massive difference really, it doesn't influence a huge amount, but it's you always want a little bit of temp in the brakes just to make it a bit more consistent. So here, waiting for the green lights and stamping on the throttle. A pretty decent start, everyone fairly even around us. Yuri got a fairly decent start actually. The torque of that BMW pulling him right up to the rear end of Josh Rogers. We dive for the middle because we think it's going to be the safest option. Jakub pushing us a little bit wide, Yuri pinching us from the outside, and he gets pushed into the gravel just a little bit, but he still manages to get a good run. So at this point he's alongside. I'm sort of staying over to the left to try and pinch him, to sort of say, this isn't a good idea, let's not do this, and thankfully he backs out. So we've made one position in turn number 1. It was a little bit of argy-bargy, but we managed to get the job done. Here, 3 wide on the front straight, as we kind of expected to see with the draft. We elect to give Rogers just a little bit of an aero push. You're not allowed to fully bump draft in this series, so we give him a little aero shove, We get past Dom on the outside. Jakub made a little bit of contact with Josh, which got him a little bit unsettled, and then here he decided to go defensive, which, you know, I'm not going to go for a move into Ravage on lap 1 when we're on the verge of losing the draft already. So at this stage we just tucked in behind Jakub and tried to settle in. So moving on then to the start of lap 2, Jakub sort of struggled a little bit on lap 1 just to stay within range of Josh. I think Josh did a really good middle sector on the opening lap despite the sort of cold tyres and things, so he managed to pretty much break the slipstream of Jakub. So here I decided, you know, rather than aero pushing Jakub and losing more time in the middle sector, I'm just going to go for it myself, use the overspeed to pull a tenth or two on Josh. And here you can see we got down to about 5 tenths, but then just braked marginally too late with the slipstream and ran deep. Then on the exit, big massive wash of understeer. The car just sort of bottomed out as I came off the curb on the right, and it pushed me off into the off track, which, yeah, all the time that we'd made up from taking the slipstream to go past, we instantly just lost it again. So at this stage we're on the absolute edge of slipstream. Within about 0.7 is where you start gaining time, but it's not an awful lot until you're sort of within half a second or within 4 tenths. So here I'm just trying to focus on settling back down, forgetting that mistake and trying to close the gap back in. But at this stage I started suffering from cramp in my left foot and also lost feeling in one of my toes on my right foot, both at the same time, sort of out of nowhere. So yeah, I think just a little bit of a mistake on my part in the lead up to the race and the preparation, you know, sort of on the diet side of things. I think I made a bad call, and it just sort of led to overall muscle stiffness and tightness and things like that, and then it led to cramp. So yeah, not a good middle sector, a 0.37. It should be well into the zeros. On 2 lap old tyres, the middle sector becomes quicker and quicker the higher the pressures get, and then the more temperature that you build. So a good 3 tenths off in that middle sector compared to where we should have been, and it's left us, yeah, outside of the draft of Rogers. So now we're exposed to Jakub behind, but let's see if we can hang on. So on to lap number 4 now. The issues, unfortunately, with the cramp and things got worse. I lost more time to Josh, and here Jakub goes for the move. You can see me lifting just to let him go, and I'm going to tuck in behind, try and sort of cool the tyres back down, calm myself down, just get a few deep breaths, let Jakub tow us along a little bit, and just try and, yeah, use this as a bit of a mental reset, get ourselves back in the groove, and yeah, just try and stay competitive, because at the moment we're, yeah, really on the back foot. You can see Josh done a 14.3 out front. I was a 14.5, which is a good couple tenths away from where I want to be. Sector 1 was okay, but then it was the middle and last sector that really let us down. We lost about a tenth apiece in each sector. So yeah, just not, the start of this race hasn't gone well. We're at the midpoint now and we're still suffering. You can see just I'm hesitating with turn in, hesitating with throttle pickup, just because I'm trying to contend with with these physical issues that I was having for some strange reason. I think I know why. So yeah, it's an adjustment we need to make for next week. On lap number 5 then, and yeah, again, still struggling. Dom managed to get a run on us thanks to a little bit of an aero push again from Yuri as well, just to give him the extra momentum. And yeah, Dom went up the inside and said just to let him go. I thought, you know, I'm just going to settle in, still try and recover this. You know, Dom can get back into the slipstream with Jakub. I knew Dom was really quick this week, so if there's one guy who could drag me back across that gap to Jakub, it would be him. So I just had to settle back in behind Dom, just accept that right now I'm struggling. You see another big moment out of no name, but just accept that I'm struggling. We've got a second from Yuri back to P6, so we are basically guaranteed a top 5 at this point. So at this point I knew I was going to make it to the semi-finals. I just had to kind of take this opportunity to regather my thoughts, get my head back in the game, and try and maximise the points from this race. So not much really happened on lap 5 and 6 besides Dom overtaking me, so I managed to sort of get rid of the cramp. It let off a little bit, and I managed to get my confidence back and had a couple pretty decent laps. You can see up there I've done a 14.36 just following Dom and Jakub, and then here on the final lap Dom goes for a move up the inside into Lecom. Jakub fights back on the brakes. We're just going to try and pick the lane that's moving the best, so up the inside, trying to make sure that we don't make any contact, and then a little bit of a shoulder barge there from Dom, not intentional by any means, and Jakob went off onto the gravel there. I had to try and steer to the right to avoid any contact when he's coming back on, in case he got like a bit of a snap, and ended up giving us a big snap of oversteer as well. So anyway, with that up to P3, I was hoping that the stewards would look into that incident, and potentially I would get promoted to P2 if Dom got like a 1 second penalty or something like that. But you know, upon reviewing the replay, it's pretty clear it was just a racing incident. It's the last lap, going side by side through Lake Com, it's going to happen. So at this point, just trying to focus on giving myself an opportunity into the last chicane to try and snatch P2 away from Dom and really maximise the result with the cards that we've been dealt at this point. You know, the damage is sort of self-inflicted. It's my fault. I'm the reason that Josh managed to get so far ahead. I just couldn't collect myself, and then between the cramp and just getting worried about that, and then being slow, it all just sort of compounded and gave Josh, you know, a really easy win in the end. So we had a pretty strong middle sector actually, all things considered. At this point I was driving quite well, and we decided to make a quick change to the brake bias, go to the outside of Dom late as we can on the brakes, barely get any turn in just because we've ran it in so deep, then through the left hander, trying to stay off Dom. A little bit of contact there as he pinches me at the apex, but the momentum on the outside is too much, and Dom will come home P2 with ourselves on the podium. So considering the qualifying, considering the issues that I had during that, I was fairly happy actually to walk away with the podium. It was good points to stack on top of what Dara managed in his quarterfinal with the win. So yeah, overall it could have been a heck of a lot worse than that. Let's move on to the semi-final. So then into semi-final qualifying then, was suffering just a little bit before this. I did a few laps and was really struggling to even do a 0.4, which is something I was able to replicate pretty much every single lap in testing before the race. After that quarterfinal the quarterfinal qualifying, confidence just dropped a little bit, head dropped, and yeah, I knew I had to push a little bit harder. You know, Dara sort of said to me, you know, you underdrove that quarterfinal lap, that's why it was so slow. You were just sort of over slowing for corners when you didn't have to. Just try and be a bit more aggressive on this run. So that's what I came into this qualifying thinking, just let's be aggressive, we've got to push. Early on, Ferris Stanley's done a 7.2, not a great lap from him, but Siggy does a 4.9, which is, you know, in and around where it has to be. And Sector 1's a 4.6, so a minor improvement over the quarterfinals. Lake Com a lot tidier than the previous one, and Lake Com, yeah, the exit not too bad. A little bit safe still, but we're at least entering corners at the right speed now. It's more on exit that I'm just giving up a little bit of time. Rivage, bit of hesitation there, at least half a tenth gone into No Name. Got in nice and early, it actually felt okay, just a little bit late on the throttle pickup, overslowed just a bit for the middle of the corner. And then into Puon, braking marginally later than we did in the quarterfinals. Puon, it was okay, nothing special, but it could get the job done. Into pit path, I knew that the middle sector was okay up until this point. I just said in my head, you know, got to keep on pushing. Let's not back off. Upshift into fourth, and as we come off the curb, the left rear just clips a bump, get a little bit of four-wheel slide, and we skim the off-track on exit. Yeah, at this point my heart dropped. I thought, wow, this lap would have been okay. You know, it would have been in and around where Siggy was. You know, it's definitely tracking towards a 0.4, I think, maybe a low 5, which, you know, would have been again okay. But yeah, that short shift to fourth, it was giving me issues all week. It was quicker, but it was just a little bit harder to get used to. Sometimes the car would start to understeer or kind of four-wheel slide on you. So yeah, unfortunately we just caught a bump with the left rear. The car just jumped ever so slightly, and it just induced a little bit of understeer and pushed us into the off-track. So starting last, a 15.5, a quick punch of the wheel, and yeah, we've got some work to do in the race. So then, starting from P12, knowing that there's a lot of work to do, we're really behind the 8 ball here, and it's not going to be easy to get ourselves through into the final. But at this stage, there's nothing to lose. You've got to just try and, you know, tell yourself, like, look, we've got to just take some risks, try not to get any penalties first and foremost. It's got to be calculated risks, but let's just try and maximise on lap 1. It's going to be our best opportunity to make some moves, and with that we are green for the semi-final. Got Nicholas Matteo just on our inside. We decided just to back off nice and early. So there's a bit of contact between the Falcons and the BS car up there. I decided I want to try and go for the biggest cutback in history, but Nicholas kind of covered that one off. So yeah, didn't end up leading to anything. Ferris got shoved off a little bit, and then here I decided just to back off because there's going to be a check up at the top of the hill with everyone sort of getting up on top of each other, so we can carry that momentum up the hill, try and get a run, which we have managed to do. And we go to the outside of Ferris Stanley, hoping that the pack moves to the left, which they don't. So we end up stuck with absolutely no slipstream. They move left after a while, and we're going to try and outbrake Ferris on the outside on lap 1. A crash ahead. That's one of the Falcons cars goes spinning off. I think it was Jakub, and we managed to get past Ferris here. We cleared him into the right hander, and then we're going to try and look to the outside of Nicholas Matteo as he covers that one off. I know it's going to check up on the inside, so I want to try and take the outside, but then Yuri was ahead, so we couldn't just absolutely bomb it in. Big snap of oversteer there just from the dirt air, and a little bit of exuberance on the throttle, should we say, as these two in front are still going side by side. I'm lifting to try and let Yuri get back in so we don't lose more time, but he's yeah, trying to stick his nose up the inside. I get a good run on the exit pull on, but he covers it off. Nowhere to really go. I decided to fake to the inside as just more to try and defend from Ferris than attack Yuri. And then through here I can see that the pack has already split. There's a red line in a Williams car going side by side, and at this point I'm panicking, thinking, okay, if this is like P7 that's battling, then we're in trouble. But thankfully it was P5 these guys were scrapping for, so the transfer spot is literally right there. And I know that if I play my cards right, I could still make it through despite the absolutely horrendous performance in qualifying. So we're in the mix. They're going 2 wide through Blanchimont in front of us. There's cars absolutely everywhere. They end up 3 wide on the exit. I go to the outside. Probably not the smartest move, but I think, you know, we've got to take risks. We've got to go somewhere. It's 3 by 3 into the last chicane. There's contact in front. Yuri cuts the chicane. I get shoved wide, and then, yeah, sort of straight through the side of Tobias Pfeffer there. There was already contact before I got there with him and Rightville, so I mean I was completely blind to what was going on. Like, I wasn't really looking at what Rightville was doing. I was more looking at the apex of the left-hander to try and make sure I didn't run deep, and throughout all that, yeah, everyone just sort of ended up in the exact same place at the same time, and unfortunately we did make contact. However, we're now P6 with a 2-second gap behind, and Yuri is 1.3 ahead with no slipstream. So at this point I'm thinking, right, okay, we can get P5. I can see them scrapping way up ahead there, so I know that that might slow them down. We could still have a shot. We're only 4 seconds behind Josh, who's at the tail of that queue. Actually, it's Don Blair now. So yeah, we're 3.5 seconds behind. Now you can see how much time they've lost already just by fighting. So at this point it was just a case of knuckling down and banging in some good lap times. So then, moving on to lap number 4, we put in a couple of really nice laps, a 14.31 on the previous lap, which was slightly quicker than Collins out front. And we get the run on Yuri, go up the inside, he lets us go, so we move back over to the left just to open up that chicane, and up into P5 we go. Now at this point here I'm just focused on trying to break the draft on Yuri. I could tell from when I was catching him that I had better raw pace, especially the middle sector, which is where you can really break the slipstream on someone. So at this stage I've gotten ahead, I'm 0.4 clear. I'm just trying to get that gap to 0.6, 0.7, so I can keep Yuri at arm's length, and I don't give him an opportunity to overtake me on the final lap, and we end up going back to P6 again. Skipping forward then to the final lap, and yeah, if you look to the bottom right, Yuri is 6.2 behind. We had a couple of really strong laps back into the mid-2s in race trim, which is where I was in testing, and was quicker than the guys up front who are running sort of 3s and 4s at points, but obviously they did have elements of fighting and scrapping in there. But if you think of where we were after the accident, we were 4 seconds behind 4th. When did that race? 2.5 behind. Yeah, big confidence boost going into the final. Although the qualifying wasn't there, the race pace came back. We were consistent, we were quick, and yeah, we managed to pull that gap from 4 seconds to 2.5 in a span of 5 laps. So yeah, made it through into the final. Not great points in P5, but we're in the final. That's all that counts. So then into qualifying for the final. We're first up, which I've not had in a long time. As please excuse the audio bug we've got in the background. The Rennsport replays are still a little bit temperamental. But yeah, we've had a rough day of qualifying so far. Trying to right that here in the final. This is where you just got to go absolutely all out. You've got nothing to lose. You've made it to the final. That's the best part. We have got good points in the team's champ. We can afford to we can afford to take a couple risks. So this lap here, full focus on just absolutely sending it. Whatever happens, happens, and we'll see where we end up. In towards Les Combes, onto the brakes, nice and aggressive, trailing off nice and early. That felt good. Through the left, pretty decent, a little bit offline, but it's not the end of the world. Through the right-hander, nice and aggressive. Probably the best I've had it all day. Sector 1 was a 4.8. Didn't really get Sector 1 right at all day. It was a 4.7 in the quarters, 4.6 in the semis, and then a 4.8 in the final. I just overdrove the entry ever so slightly. A little bit wide there through No Name. So far this middle sector's not been terrible. Just a couple of small little errors here and there that have cost me 300-400s each. And it's really easy for them to start adding up. And into Piff Paff we go then. Obviously off track here in the semi-finals. I've still got that kind of lingering in the back of my head as the sound come back to normal. Good timing. Into the left-hander, up into fourth. Didn't take as much apex care as I probably should have, and a little bit hesitant on the exit. Obviously staying well away from that off track. Savila 1 was actually good. I ended up just giving myself a little confidence lift on the exit, which I didn't have to do. It's actually 0.6 middle, so we're more in the ballpark of where we should have been. Arguably when the pressure's highest in the final, we're actually put together an okay lap. Besides sector 1, if that was like a 4.4, 4.3, this would be a really tidy lap, besides that mistake in turn 1. So into the last chicane, giving it absolutely everything, late on the brakes, through the right-hander, nice, no sort of slides or anything up into second. A little bit of a slide on the exit, which isn't ideal. And across the line, it's a 0.2 last sector, which is similar to what we ran in the quarterfinals. So that gives us a 5.7. In the final, not ideal. In the quarterfinals that would have been okay, but in the final that's not really where we're looking to be. So yeah, the end of qualifying, we are P7 with one car left to go. We will drop to P8 as they cross the line, as Don Blair goes pole with a 3.93. Mental lap times at the front. Dara's third on a 4.3, which is pretty mighty lap for the Aston. But yeah, not quite enough. So P8, we're back there with Yuri again. We've been around Yuri the entire day. Me and him can't seem to get separated. We were only 100th off Rogers though, so not a great lap for the fall season champ from 2023. But his teammate Collins up in P2, he was probably driver of the day if you ask anyone. So yeah, let's see what we can manage from P8 on the grid. So then, we've been here, there and everywhere so far today. We've been as high as second, as low as last. We've done everything but lead. Can we lead in the final by some absolute miracle? Through the last corner then, just waiting for the lights to pop up. We're going to start off red and then go green. As we were behind Josh Rogers, we get a nice start compared to him. Obviously can't pull out until after the line. So we cross the line, we look to the outside. Probably not the best idea, I think. I'm pretty sure it's 5 wide at one point in there. And on the exit, yeah, shoved wide from Josh. Nothing he could do. He's got... Oh, sorry, Josh was actually on the inside. It was... I don't know who that is. Jordan Caruso. He had a mouse car up his inside. And then here, I get hit. Rogers, massive moment. We barely miss him. And we make contact with Yuri over the top of the hill. Yeah, mental start. Everyone fighting for absolutely everything, every single inch. And yeah, here at this point, I'm middle 3 wide. I'm just getting barged around. There's another crash ahead of us. Dennis rejoins right in front of me. I've got to brake, and that allows both Kaiki and Yuri to get ahead. But then Kaiki gets forced off, so back up the inside. And after all that, we've lost a position. The two mouse cars end up beefing. Yuri ends up in the grass. And yeah, we've ended up where we started, which is P8. Sorry, P7 now. So yeah, Dennis is P6. He's lost draft to Caruso ahead. Dara's also gone backwards. He's back to P4. But yeah, we've been through the wars there. Absolute carnage. 3 wide into Eau Rouge. Rogers backed out, tried to file back in line, and I think Yuri just skimmed him coming up the hill. And as it came up over the top of the crest, there's just nothing he could do. The car took off with like a weird angle, and that was all she wrote. Somehow, Dennis has gotten back into the draft of the front group. Collins is 1 second clear already after lap 1, so I think Siggy and Dom had a bit of a battle. Maybe it was Dara and Dom, I'm not quite sure who done it, but someone has created a split, and it's basically just gifted Charlie the win. He's in the perfect position here. The only concern he's got is Siggy, Dara and Dom working together, either swap drafting or aero pushing each other back up to the rear end of Charlie. So yeah, hectic first lap. Let's move on and see how the rest of the race goes. So on lap number 3, we've got Dennis decided to go for a move on Jordan Caruso for P5 just ahead of us. And at this point here, lift off nice and early, scrub off a little bit of that overspeed from the slipstream, and then here, Jordan, yeah, a little bit of contact. Jordan checks us up. Kaiki intelligently goes up the inside, takes that run, and catches off guard a little bit. I just sort of was like a deer in the headlights. I didn't want to run through the back of him. I couldn't really go to the right too conveniently, and Kaiki just, yeah, took the opportunity. It fell right in his lap. A little bit of contact through the last right of Lecom. Did push me into the gravel a little bit, but ultimately, yeah, I can't complain too much. That was my own fault. I didn't even think Kaiki would try it, but that was smart racing from him, and we're back down into P8. Skipping forward into the next lap, and yeah, Jordan and Dennis are back at it again into Lecom. Kaiki this time takes it 3 wide. He's keen to get into the top 5. Dennis backs out, and then yeah, Kaiki just runs completely deep, and everyone's sort of moving to try and dodge each other. I go round outside of Dennis. He gives me a good shoulder barge and puts on the outside for the Ravage, which is never a good place to be. And of course, right behind Dennis on the inside there is Yuri as well. So I've got 2 Maus cars up the inside trying to make something happen. Thankfully, we got a good run off of Ravage. Didn't allow Yuri a chance to get side by side into no name and back into P8. So yeah, Kaiki is probably the man to watch at the moment. He's come from P9 or P8, and he was 5th for a matter of 1 corner before running just a little bit deep, but he did really well to get up the inside there. His race pace was very, very impressive. He was able to sit very close to everyone really, and hopefully that's what gave him an opportunity to get himself in the hunt for a top 5. And then literally 30 seconds later, we go into the last chicane. Everyone's running a little bit deep. Jordan mainly. I think he got a bit of a nudge from Kaiki, who then tries to go around the outside, and Jordan makes contact, and Dennis jumps at the opportunity, gets to the outside of Kaiki, actually clears him into T1, and now side by side with Jordan. He manages to file back in though, as we make a little bit of contact, as Yuri was bombing one up the inside of me. And yeah, we're now down to P9 with no slipstream, and Dane Warren is the next one behind. He thankfully lifted out, gave us a gap to slot into. But yeah, we've just kind of not been aggressive enough. We've sort of, as things have been kicking off in front of us, we've sort of sat there and watched. Yeah, didn't really take the opportunities as they came. Here we're going to try and get the spot back on Yuri, because I know I've got better race pace than him based off of the semi-final. But as I turn in for the left, massive slap of oversteer, and then Dane Warren goes, yeah, clean round the outside. Then next is Tattlet, got to go defensive on him, and yeah, it's all kind of falling apart here, just not being aggressive enough. And then the one time I tried to be aggressive, the rear end of the car just sort of let go. I didn't really get any rotation through the left, and then the whole wheel just went light and it started kind of sliding, and it just killed my confidence. So yeah, we were handed a shot at a top 5 on a silver platter, and we've sort of just thrown it away. Trying to be a little bit too safe. Obviously part of that is because of the new race control. We're trying to gauge how strict or lenient they're going to be on things, so we didn't want to go in there and go picking up a bunch of penalty points in the first round, especially with a seeding round where there's no, you know, it's important obviously it decides what group you go into, but there's not, it's not going to sort of make or break your season fully if you lose a couple of spots. So we didn't want to go in all guns blazing getting penalty points, and yeah, I took that a little bit too literally. The end of lap 5, Yuri has almost lost draft on the group ahead, so Dane sees that as an opportunity. Fakes to the outside, then back to the inside, up he goes. Yuri tries to close the door, and Dane says, yeah, nah, and keeps the nose in. Yuri ends up way offline, we get round his outside, and we're now battling for P9, but of course we can't fight too hard because Dane will then get away, and we've got Tatala right behind. Again, Yuri's sort of leaning on me a little bit on the entry, I'm leaning on him. Give him a little love tap on the exit, and we get a slightly better run, and he ends up failing in behind. So we're 0.6 behind Dane, but yeah, Yuri and Thomas are basically right behind us. The 2.5 tenths separating all three of us, so I'm not in a good position here on the straight, as I believe Yuri goes back for the move. Yes, he does. He goes up the inside. We're going to try and outbrake him on the outside, which I think we just managed to do. Yep, we clear him through this left-hander. And now, yeah, we have lost draft to Dane, so we're now in P9, no slipstream to P8. We've just got to try and push as hard as we can, do what we've done in the semi-finals and break the slipstream to Yuri, or at least get him far enough away to where he won't have an opportunity on the final lap. So then, the final lap into the final chicane, and if you look at the bottom right, you can see we have managed to break draft on Thomas and Yuri. On the final lap, Thomas had a run. I think Yuri was 0.5 behind me. Managed to string a couple of good laps together and increase that gap to him. And that was the end of things. P9 at the line, later to be promoted to P8 after Dane's penalty. I'm not 100% sure what it was for, if it was for that last chicane that we saw, or if it was for a separate incident, but yeah, that was the end of our night. Charlie Collins picked up the win by 2.8 seconds over Dom in P2, and Dara picking up a podium in P3, which was really good for the team considering the issues I had at the back. So then guys, that was a review of Rennsport R1 round 1. Yeah, bit of an up and down day, not ideal from my perspective, but that's just kind of how things go. For those of you who aren't aware, we're racing again. We're racing from Monza for round number 2. We're currently second in the team's championship as well after that first round, so that was a good, nice little confidence boost. But yeah, Porsche Coanda are currently like 120, 115 points ahead of us. So we've got some work to do, but the pace is looking pretty good heading into this round. So let's keep our fingers crossed we can perform a little bit better in qualifying. I've made some adjustments. We're going to try them out for the rest of this week and see how we go. But yeah, with that, I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.